First contact. The vast expanse of space stretched before Captain Elena Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon. The United Earth ship, a marvel of human engineering, glided silently through the star-studded void. Elena's dark eyes scanned the holographic displays, searching for any sign of the anomaly that had brought them to this remote corner of the galaxy. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," Lieutenant Zara Chen announced from her station. "Sensors are picking up something unusual." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." Zara frowned, her fingers dancing over the controls. "It's hard to explain, ma'am. There's a distortion in space-time, but it's not like anything we've encountered before. It's almost as if something's there, but we can't see it." The captain's interest peaked. After months of uneventful exploration, they might have stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. "Bring us closer, Helm. Tactical. Keep our defenses ready, just in case." As the horizon edged closer to the anomaly, the bridge crew watched in fascination as the stars beyond seemed to ripple and shift. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. "Captain," Zora shouted, "we're detecting multiple objects materializing around us." Elena's hand instinctively went to her sidearm. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life, but instead of alien ships or celestial bodies, it showed only the empty void of space. Yet the alarms continued to wail, insisting that they were surrounded. "I don't understand," Zara muttered. "The sensors say they're right there, but we can't see them." Elena's mind raced. Invisible ships. Cloaking technology beyond anything humans had ever encountered, or something even stranger. "Open a channel," she ordered. "To all vessels in the vicinity, this is Captain Elena Reyes of the UES Horizon. We come in peace and mean you no harm. Please identify yourselves." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, a strange, melodic series of tones filled the bridge. The universal translator struggled to process the alien language, but finally, words began to form. "Humans," a soft, almost ethereal voice said. "You see us." Elena exchanged glances with her crew. "We can detect your presence, yes, but we cannot see you visually. Are you invisible?" Another pause, followed by more melodic tones. "We are the Etheri. We exist between. Your kind has never perceived us before." The implications of this revelation sent a shiver down Elena's spine. An entire species that existed outside the visible spectrum, undetectable to most races. The scientific possibilities alone were staggering. "We are honored to make your acquaintance, Etheri," Elena said carefully. "We are explorers from Earth, seeking to expand our knowledge of the universe. May we engage in peaceful dialogue?" The response came quicker this time. "Yes, we too seek knowledge. Your ability to detect us, intriguing. We must understand." Over the next few hours, the crew of the Horizon engaged in a careful dance of communication with the invisible Etheri. They learned that the aliens existed in a state of matter unlike anything known to Earth science, allowing them to move unseen through the cosmos. But as the initial excitement of first contact wore off, Elena began to sense an undercurrent of tension in the Etheri's communications. They seemed almost afraid of something. "Etheri," she finally asked, "is there a reason you've remained hidden from other species for so long?" The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken dread. When the alien voice returned, it was tinged with fear. "There are others, hunters. They seek us, destroy us. We hide to survive." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "These hunters, are they a threat to other species as well?" "Unknown," the Etheri replied. "But they come. Always they come." As if on cue, new alarms blared across the Horizon's bridge. Zora's eyes widened as she read the sensor data. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy surge at the edge of the system. Something's coming through." Elena's jaw set in determination. Whatever was coming, Humanity had just stumbled into a conflict beyond anything they had ever imagined. And somehow, they had become the only ones who could see both sides. "Battle stations," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her gut. "And open a channel to the Ethery. Tell them we stand ready to help." As the crew scrambled to prepare for the unknown threat, Alina Reyes stared out at the seemingly empty space around them. Invisible allies, unknowable enemies, and humanity caught in the middle. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the horizon, but possibly the course of interstellar history. The hunt was on, and only time would tell if humanity's unique perception would be their salvation or their doom. The unseen threat. The bridge of the UES horizon thrummed with tension as Captain Alina Reyes watched the sensor readings with growing concern. The massive energy signature that had appeared at the edge of the system was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. "Status report," Alina barked, her eyes never leaving the main screen. Lieutenant Zara Chin's fingers flew over her console. "The anomaly is moving towards us at an incredible speed, Captain. Whatever it is, it's big and it's powerful." Dr. Alexei Volkov, the ship's chief scientist, spoke up from his station. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Ethery's communication patterns. I believe I've found a way to create a rudimentary visual representation of their presence." Alina nodded sharply. "Do it, Doctor. We need every advantage we can get." Volkov tapped a series of commands into his console, and suddenly the view screen flickered. Ghostly, translucent shapes appeared, surrounding the horizon, the Aetheri fleet, finally visible to human eyes. "Remarkable," Alina breathed. Then, addressing the aliens, she said, "Aetheri, we can see you now. Can you tell us more about the threat we're facing?" The melodic tones of the Aetheri filled the bridge once more. "The Void Hunters come. They exist as we do, between realms, but they are wrong, corrupted. They consume all in their path." As if to punctuate the Ethery's words, a massive dark shape began to coalesce on the view screen. It was like looking at a hole in space itself, a writhing mass of nothingness that devoured light and matter alike. "By all that's holy," Zara whispered, her face pale. Alina steeled herself. "Aetheri, we stand with you. But we need to know how to fight this thing." The Aetheri's response was tinged with surprise and gratitude. "You would aid us, after just meeting our kind." "That's what humans do," Alina said firmly. "We stand up for what's right, even in the face of the unknown." There was a pause, and then the Aetheri spoke again. "We have weapons, but they are ineffective against the Void Hunters. Your ability to perceive us, it may be the key." Dr. Volkov's eyes lit up. "Captain, I have an idea. If we can modify our sensors to detect the unique energy signature of the Aetheri and the Void Hunters, we might be able to create a targeting system." Alina nodded. "Do it, Doctor. Zara, work with him. I want every weapon on this ship recalibrated to hit these things." As the crew scrambled to prepare, the massive shape of the Void Hunter drew ever closer. Alina could see the Aetheri ships moving into defensive formations around the horizon, their ghostly forms a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness. "Aetheri," Alina called out, "we're modifying our weapons to target the Void Hunters. Can you provide us with any tactical information? Weaknesses, vulnerabilities?" The alien voice came back, filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "The Void Hunters feed on energy. Perhaps your weapons could disrupt their feeding process." Dr. Volkov's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, I think I've got it. We can use a modulated tachyon beam to destabilize their energy matrix. It's risky, but it might work." Alina didn't hesitate. "Do it. Tactical, prepare to fire on my mark." The Void Hunter was now fully visible on the screen, a roiling mass of darkness that seemed to devour the very stars around it. Tendrils of nothingness reached out, grasping at the Aetheri ships and the horizon alike. "Steady," Alina said, her voice calm despite the fear clawing at her insides. Wait for it. The Void Hunter surged forward, its maw opening to swallow them whole. Now, fire everything we've got. The Horizon's weapons blazed to life, streams of modulated tachyons lancing out into space. At first, it seemed as if they were having no effect, the beams disappearing into the void. But then, a keening wail filled the air, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Void Hunter's form began to ripple and distort, parts of it flickering in and out of existence. The Aetheri ships, sensing an opportunity, unleashed their own weapons, beams of pure energy that now found purchase in the destabilized creature. "It's working," Zora shouted, her eyes wide with disbelief. But their victory was short-lived. With a surge of dark energy, the Void Hunter began to reform, its mass swelling as it absorbed the energy of the attacks. "Captain," Dr. Volkov said urgently, "we've wounded it, but our weapons are only feeding it now. We need to find another way." Alina's mind raced. They had proven they could hurt these things, but at what cost? She turned to address the Aetheri. "Is there a way to trap these creatures, to contain them rather than destroy them?" The Aetheri's response was hesitant. We have never considered such a thing. The Void Hunters have always been too powerful." "Well, we're considering it now," Alina said firmly. "Doctor, what about the ship's containment fields? Could we modify them to hold the Void Hunter?" Volkov's fingers flew over his console. "It's possible, but we'd need an enormous amount of power, more than the Horizon can generate on its own." Alina turned back to the view screen, where the wounded but still dangerous Void Hunter loomed. "Aetheri, if we could create a containment field large enough to trap this thing, could your ships provide additional power?" There was a pause, and then the alien voice returned, filled with a new determination. "Yes, we will aid you. Your courage inspires us." A plan began to form in Alina's mind. It was risky, borderline insane, but it was their best shot. "All right, listen up. We're going to create the biggest containment field in human history, and we're going to use it to trap that thing. Doctor, start the modifications. Zara, coordinate with the Aetheri fleet. I want every scrap of power they can spare." As the crew rushed to implement her orders, Alina stared out at the Void Hunter. It was regrouping, preparing for another attack. They had one shot at this, one chance to prove that humanity's ingenuity and the Aetheri's ancient knowledge could overcome even the most terrifying of threats. "Hold on, everyone," she muttered under her breath. "This is going to get interesting." The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the Horizon and the Aetheri, but potentially the safety of the entire galaxy. As the containment field began to take shape, a shimmering bubble of energy forming in space, Alina Reyes steeled herself for the battle to come. The hunt had become a trap, and now it was time to see who would be the predator and who would be the prey. The battle begins. The space around the UES Horizon crackled with energy as the massive containment field took shape. Captain Alina Reyes watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation as the combined power of human technology and Aetheri knowledge created something never before seen in the galaxy. "Status report," she called out, her eyes never leaving the shimmering barrier. Dr. Volkov's voice was strained but excited. "The field is stable, Captain. We're channeling power from the Aetheri fleet to maintain it, but it's holding." Alina nodded. "Good. Now comes the hard part. We need to lure that thing inside." The Void Hunter, still reeling from the earlier attack, hovered at the edge of their sensor range. Its dark mass pulsed and writhed, as if sensing the trap that awaited it. "Aetheri," Alina addressed their alien allies, "we need a way to draw the Void Hunter into our containment field. Any ideas?" The melodic tones of the Aetheri filled the bridge once more. "The hunters are drawn to energy. Perhaps we could create a lure." Lieutenant Zarat Chen's eyes lit up. "Captain, what if we use the Aetheri ships as bait? They could fly into the containment field, drawing the hunter after them, and then escape at the last second." Alina frowned. It's risky. If even one ethery ship doesn't make it out in time. We volunteer, the ethery voice interrupted. Your people risk much for us. We would do the same. A lump formed in Alina's throat. The bravery of these beings, aliens they had only just met, was humbling. Very well. Let's make this count. The plan was set in motion. A group of ethery ships, their ghostly forms now visible thanks to Dr. Volkov's modifications, broke away from the fleet. They flew towards the containment field, their energy signatures blazing like beacons. The effect on the Void Hunter was immediate. Its mass surged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching out hungrily towards the ethery ships. Steady, Alina said, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. Wait for it. The ethery ships danced and weaved, staying just ahead of the ravenous Void Hunter. As they approached the containment field, Alina held her breath. Now, she shouted. The ethery ships dove through the shimmering barrier of the containment field. For a heart-stopping moment, it looked as if the Void Hunter would pull back, sensing the trap. But its hunger was too great. It plunged after the ethery, its massive form squeezing through the opening in the field. Close it, Alina ordered. Dr. Volkov's fingers flew over his console. The containment field began to shrink, closing around the Void Hunter like a net. Ethery ships, get out of there, Zara called out. One by one, the brave ethery pilots shot out of the closing field. But as the last ship attempted to escape, a tendril of darkness wrapped around it, pulling it back. No, Alina shouted, rising from her chair. Without hesitation, the horizon surged forward. Alina's voice rang out clear and determined. Tactical, fire tachyon beams at that tendril. We are not losing anyone today. The horizon's weapons blazed to life, slicing through the dark matter of the Void Hunter. The ethery ship, now free, shot out of the containment field just as it snapped shut. A collective cheer went up on the bridge as the Void Hunter thrashed within its prison, unable to escape. We did it, Zara breathed, her face alight with wonder. But Alina knew the battle was far from over. The containment field flickered and pulsed as the Void Hunter raged within, testing. The containment field flickered and pulsed as the Void Hunter raged within, testing its boundaries with increasing ferocity. Captain Alina Reyes knew they couldn't afford to celebrate just yet. Dr. Volkov, status on the containment field, she demanded, her eyes never leaving the shimmering barrier. The scientist's fingers danced over his console. It's holding, Captain, but the strain is immense. The Void Hunter's energy output is increasing exponentially. I'm not sure how long we can maintain it. Alina's jaw clenched. They had trapped the beast, but now what? She turned to address the ethery. We need a more permanent solution. Is there any way to neutralize this thing? The ethery's response was tinged with uncertainty. In all our history, we have only ever fled from the hunters. Your containment, it is already more than we ever dreamed possible. Zara spoke up, her voice filled with determination. Captain, what if we could collapse the field in on itself? Create a sort of pocket dimension to trap the hunter. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened. Theoretically possible, but the energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need to channel the power of a small star. Alina's mind raced. A crazy idea began to form. Or the power of a Void Hunter itself. She turned to the view screen. Ethery, you said these hunters feed on energy. What if we overfeed it? There was a pause as the aliens considered her words. Intriguing. But dangerous. Very dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Alina replied. But if we don't try, that thing will eventually break free, and we'll be right back where we started. Dr. Volkov caught on to her plan. We could modify the containment field to act as a funnel, channeling energy directly into the Void Hunter. If we overload its ability to absorb power, it might implode, Zara finished, her eyes shining with excitement. Alina nodded. Exactly. We turn its greatest strength into a weakness. She addressed the Aetheri once more. "We'll need every scrap of power you can spare. Can you help us?" The Aetheri's response was immediate and resolute. "We stand with you, humans. Your courage, it awakens something long dormant in our people. We will aid you, whatever the cost." With renewed determination, the crew of the Horizon and their Aetheri allies set to work. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity as they modified the containment field, rerouted power systems, and prepared for the most daring maneuver in human history. As they worked, Alina couldn't help but marvel at the sight before her. Humans and Aetheri, two species that had never met before this day, now working in perfect harmony. The invisible aliens had become visible not just to their eyes, but to their hearts as well. Finally, everything was in place. The containment field had been transformed into a massive energy funnel, with the Void Hunter trapped at its center. Every ship in the combined fleet, human and Aetheri alike, was linked to the system, ready to channel their power into the trap. Alina took a deep breath, looking around at her crew and their new allies. "This is it. Once we start, there's no going back. Is everyone ready?" Nods and affirmative responses came from all around. The Aetheri's melodic tones rang out, filled with a newfound strength. "We are with you, Captain Reyes. Let us end this hunt once and for all." With a final look at the monstrous form of the Void Hunter, still thrashing within its prison, Alina gave the order. "Initiate energy transfer. Full power." The space around them lit up like a newborn star as every ship poured its energy into the containment field. The Void Hunter's form began to swell, gorging itself on the influx of power. At first, it seemed to revel in the feast, its tendrils reaching out greedily for more. But as the seconds ticked by, something began to change. The hunter's movements became erratic, its form pulsing and contorting in unnatural ways. "It's working," Dr. Volkov shouted over the din of straining engines and crackling energy. "The hunter can't process the energy fast enough." Alina gripped her chair, her knuckles white. "Keep it up. Don't let up for a second." The Void Hunter's form continued to expand, growing to monstrous proportions. Cracks of bright energy began to appear across its surface, like fissures in a dark star. Suddenly, alarms blared across the Horizon's bridge. "Captain," Zara called out, her voice tight with fear. "The containment field is starting to buckle. If it fails now." Alina understood the unspoken threat. If the field collapsed with the Void Hunter in this state, the resulting explosion could destroy everything in the system. "Divert all remaining power to structural integrity," Alina ordered. "We need to hold it together for just a few more seconds." The ship groaned under the strain, and Alina could see the ghostly forms of the Aetheri vessels flickering as they poured every last ounce of energy into the effort. Just when it seemed they could give no more, a deafening shriek filled the air. The Void Hunter's form began to collapse in on itself, imploding with a force that made the very fabric of space tremble. "Braced for impact," Alina shouted. A blinding flash of light engulfed them, and for a moment, Alina thought they had failed. But as the light faded and her vision cleared, she saw something miraculous. Where the Void Hunter had been, there was now only empty space. The containment field flickered and died, its purpose served. Silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the sound of exhausted breathing and the gentle hum of the ship's systems. Did we do it?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Volkov checked his readings, a look of awe on his face. "It's gone. Completely annihilated. We did it." A cheer went up from the crew, echoed by the melodic tones of the Aetheri fleet. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. As the celebration washed over her, Alina Reyes looked out at the starfield, forever changed by the events of this day. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, one filled with both terrible dangers and wonderful allies. The hunt was over, but their journey was just beginning. Turning the tide. In the days following the destruction of the Void Hunter, the UES Horizon and the Aetheri fleet worked tirelessly to fortify their position. The victory had been hard-won, but Captain Alina Reyes knew that one battle didn't win a war. If there was one Void Hunter, there could be more. The Bridge of the Horizon had become a hub of frenetic activity. Humans and Aetheri worked side by side, their initial awkwardness replaced by a growing sense of camaraderie. Dr. Volkov and a team of Aetheri scientists huddled around a holographic display, fine-tuning the sensors that had allowed them to detect the invisible aliens. "Captain," Zara called out, looking up from her console, "we're picking up long-range communications from the edge of the system. It's Earth." Alina's heart skipped a beat. In the chaos of recent events, they had almost forgotten about home. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Zhang, head of the United Earth Fleet. His eyes widened slightly as he took in the scene on the Horizon's bridge, with the ghostly forms of the Aetheri visible in the background. "Captain Reyes," he said, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. "We've been trying to reach you for days. Your last transmission, well, it was hard to believe. Is it true? Have you really made first contact with an invisible species?" Alina couldn't help but smile. "It's all true, Admiral. Allow me to introduce our new allies, the Aetheri." She gestured to the shimmering forms beside her. The Aetheri's melodic tones filled the bridge as they greeted the Admiral. Zhang's composure slipped for a moment, awe replacing his usual stoic expression. "Remarkable," he breathed. Then, collecting himself, he continued, "Captain, your discovery has sent shockwaves through the scientific community. But your reports of these Void Hunters are deeply concerning. The Security Council is convening as we speak to discuss the potential threat." Alina nodded gravely. "The threat is very real, Admiral. We managed to destroy one, but at great cost, and we have reason to believe there may be more out there." Zhang's expression hardened. "Then we need to be prepared. I'm dispatching a fleet to your location. We need to set up a defensive perimeter and begin developing countermeasures immediately." As the Admiral spoke, Dr. Volkov approached Alina, his eyes shining with excitement. "Captain," he said in a low voice, "I think we've made a breakthrough." Alina held up a hand to pause the Admiral. "Sir, if you'll give us a moment. Dr. Volkov may have some important information." She turned to the scientist. "What have you found, Doctor?" Volkov could barely contain his enthusiasm. "Working with the Aetheri, we've managed to isolate the unique energy signature of the Void Hunters. We believe we can create a detection grid that could spot these creatures from light years away." The implications were staggering. Alina turned back to the view screen. "Admiral, did you hear that?" Zhang nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "It's a start, Captain. But detection isn't enough. We need a way to fight these things effectively." As if on cue, one of the Aetheri floated forward, its form shimmering with an intensity that seemed to reflect its excitement. "We may have solution," it said, its translated voice filled with a newfound confidence. "Combining our phase shift technology with your weapons, we create new defense, weapons that exist between realms, like hunters." Alina's mind raced with the possibilities. A weapon that could hit the Void Hunters in their own domain, she mused. "Admiral, with your permission, I'd like to begin joint development immediately." Zhang didn't hesitate. "Do it, Captain. I'll fast-track any resources you need. In the meantime, I want you to prepare a full briefing for the Security Council. The fate of Earth, hell, the fate of the galaxy, may depend on what we do next." As the transmission ended, Alina felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. But as she looked around at her crew and their Aetheri allies, she also felt a surge of hope. Together, they had already accomplished the impossible. Now, it was time to do it again. "All right, people," she called out, her voice ringing with determination. "We've got work to do. Dr. Volkov, I want that detection grid up and running yesterday. Zara, coordinate with the Aetheri on the weapons development. We need prototypes as soon as possible." As the crew sprang into action, Elena turned to the shimmering form of the Aetheri leader. "Thank you," she said softly, "for trusting us, for fighting beside us. We couldn't do this without you." The Aetheri's response was filled with warmth. "It is we who should thank you, Captain Reyes. For centuries we hid in fear. You have shown us another way. Together, we will face this threat." Over the next few weeks, the system became a hive of activity. Earth ships arrived, bringing with them teams of scientists, engineers, and military strategists. The Aetheri, once hidden and isolationist, now worked openly alongside their human allies. The detection grid was the first major success. A network of specialized satellites spread out across the system, their sensors attuned to the unique energy signature of the Void Hunters. For the first time, the invisible threat could be seen coming. The weapons development proved more challenging, but the combined ingenuity of humans and Aetheri eventually bore fruit. Phase-shifted energy weapons, capable of striking targets that existed between dimensions, were successfully tested against simulated Void Hunter signatures. As the defenses grew stronger, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. The Void Hunters had been a threat to the Aetheri for millennia. Now that one had been destroyed, would the others come seeking revenge? Her fears were realized one fateful morning, as alarms blared across the horizon's bridge. "Captain," Zora called out, her face pale. Multiple contacts at the edge of the system. They matched the Void Hunter energy signature. Elena's heart raced, but her voice remained steady as she gave the order. "Battle stations. Alert the fleet. This is not a drill." As the combined human Aetheri fleet moved into defensive positions, Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the approaching darkness. The true test of their alliance was about to begin. The hunt had found them once more, but this time they were ready. A new era. The void of space erupted into a dazzling display of energy as the combined human Aetheri fleet engaged the Void Hunters. Captain Elena Reyes stood at the center of the horizon's bridge, her voice calm and steady as she directed the defense. "Concentrate fire on the lead hunter," she ordered. "Use the phase-shifted weapons. Don't let them get close enough to feed." The battle was unlike anything humanity had ever experienced. The Void Hunters, now visible thanks to the detection grid, appeared as writhing masses of darkness, their forms shifting and pulsing as they moved through space. But for every tendril of void energy they extended, a beam of phase-shifted energy from the Allied fleet met it head-on. "It's working," Dr. Volkov exclaimed, his eyes wide as he monitored the sensor readings. "The new weapons are disrupting their energy matrix." Elena allowed herself a small smile. The weeks of preparation were paying off. But the fight was far from over. For every Void Hunter they pushed back, two more seemed to take its place. "Captain," Zora called out, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting a power surge from the largest hunter. It's massive." Before Elena could respond, a beam of pure darkness lanced out from the lid Void Hunter, slicing through space itself. Several Allied ships, caught in its path, simply winked out of existence. "Evasive maneuvers," Elena shouted. "All ships, fall back and regroup." As the fleet scattered, narrowly avoiding the devastating attack, Elena's mind raced. They had the technology to hurt these creatures now, but the hunters were adapting, becoming more aggressive. They needed a new strategy, and fast. Suddenly, the melodic tones of the Aetheri filled the bridge. "Captain Reyes," their leader said, its voice filled with an odd mixture of fear and determination. "We have an idea. Dangerous, but it may be our only hope." Elena turned to face the shimmering form of the Aetheri. "I'm listening." "The Void Hunters exist between realms," the Aetheri explained. "But so do we. If we could synchronize our phase with theirs, draw them into our realm fully." Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. They'd be fully visible, fully tangible. Our conventional weapons would work on them. "But," Elena said, her voice low, It would make you vulnerable too, wouldn't it? The Ethery's form seemed to pulse with resolve. Yes, but it is a risk we must take. For too long we have hidden. Now we choose to stand and fight. Elena felt a lump form in her throat. The bravery of these beings, once so afraid, now willing to risk everything, was humbling. She nodded solemnly. "What do you need from us?" "Your ships," the Aethery replied, "to form a perimeter, to protect us as we perform the phase shift. And then we hit them with everything we've got," Elena finished. The plan was set in motion with lightning speed. The human ships formed a protective circle around the Aethery fleet, their weapons blazing to keep the Void Hunters at bay. In the center, the Aethery began their phase shift. The space around them seemed to ripple and distort. Elena watched in awe as the Aethery's ghostly forms became more solid, more real. And with them, the Void Hunters began to change too. The writhing masses of darkness coalesced into tangible forms, monstrous creatures of void and shadow. Their silent menace was replaced by ear-splitting shrieks as they fully entered the physical realm. "Now," Elena shouted, "all ships, open fire." The combined fleet unleashed a barrage unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Plasma torpedoes, laser cannons, and phase-shifted beams all converged on the now vulnerable Void Hunters. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Void Hunters, now bound by the laws of physics, crashed into ships and each other. The Aethery, their true forms revealed as beings of pure energy, fought alongside human vessels, their natural abilities amplified by technology. Elena gripped her command chair as the horizon shook from a near miss. "Status report." She called out. "We're hurting them, Captain," Zara replied, her voice filled with grim satisfaction. "But there's still too many. We can't keep this up forever." Elena knew she was right. They were inflicting damage, but at a terrible cost. Ships on both sides were being destroyed, and the Aethery, now vulnerable, were taking heavy losses. Just as it seemed the tide might turn against them, a new voice crackled over the comms. "This is Admiral Zhang of the UES Defender. Horizon, do you read? We're inbound with reinforcements." Elena's heart soared as she saw the massive form of Earth's flagship emerge from warp, leading a fresh armada of ships. "Admiral," she replied, "your timing is impeccable." With the arrival of reinforcements, the battle shifted decisively in their favor. The Void Hunters, caught between two fleets and unable to retreat to their phase-shifted state, began to fall one by one. Hours later, as the last hunter was destroyed in a spectacular implosion of dark energy, a cheer went up across the entire fleet. Human and Aethery voices joined together in celebration of their hard-won victory. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Elena looked out at the starfield, forever changed by the events of the past weeks. The Aethery, now fully visible, moved among the human ships, no longer hidden, no longer afraid. Admiral Zhang's face appeared on the view screen, his usual stern expression softened by a smile. "Well done, Captain Reyes. You and your crew have written a new chapter in human history today." Elena nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you, sir, but we didn't do it alone." She gestured to the Aethery beside her. "None of this would have been possible without our new allies." Zhang's eyes twinkled with understanding. "Indeed, it seems the galaxy is a much bigger place than we ever imagined. And now, thanks to you, we have new friends to explore it with." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her crew and their Aethery allies. The bridge of the horizon, once divided by the barrier of visibility, now stood as a symbol of unity. "Well," she said, a smile tugging at her lips, "I'd say this calls for a proper introduction. To Earth, to the galaxy, and to whatever adventures await us out there." The Aethery leader, its form now a dazzling display of energy, moved forward. "We would be honored, Captain Reyes. Together, we will write a new story for both our peoples." As the horizon set course for Earth, leading the combined fleet, Alina Rice felt a sense of wonder and possibility she hadn't experienced since she first looked up at the stars as a child. The Void Hunters had been defeated, but more importantly, a new alliance had been forged. The invisible had become visible, the unknown had become known, and humanity had taken its place among the stars, ready to face whatever challenges the vast universe might hold. As they journeyed home, Alina knew that this was not an end, but a beginning. A new era of exploration, cooperation, and discovery stretched out before them, as vast and full of potential as the cosmos itself. The hunt was over. The adventure was just beginning.